hours later because I've made every effort to arrive on time. I'm not saying that I've never been late, but it's about respecting the next person.
Scooter. The father would slap the
sister around.
Young sister who can't be named because she's
but I think she's no longer a minor. I think she's 18 now.
Okay, but it's still this. I think it's just finished now. It's taken 6 weeks.
That's kind of the trend I was on.
There was a golfer described Quail Hollow where they're playing the USPGA 24, in which he says, there was another doctor that he wanted to go see him, and he said after he'd lost the gig with Toulon and the Stormers. And he said, well, we could put a pacemaker in, but you can't play rugby with a pacemaker.
Pacemaker, correct.
But
Live from OmniAudio.Africa.
This should be RomyAudio.Africa.
Romy Titus and Kevin McCallum. Not the sports news. Headlines have spoken. Streaming data-free on the MTN network in South Africa. This is where Africa comes to play. That is a masterclass. On your phone, online, and on demand at OmniAudio.Africa.
It's mayhem.
Not the sports
Is it me that says it's mayhem at the back there?
it is you that says it. And it's still May, and it's still a hem.
For June, we'll have June ham.
It's been a week. I just can't believe this week is mad. So I was I wrote a column for Business Day yesterday, and then I said, so Sundowns won the Premiership. Formula One drivers can say the F word. Liverpool fans booed one their own.
It is the F1 after all.
There's a giant Merc driving rabbit. There's a new star, the San Francisco Giants. I've got to show you the story. Periods may cause ACL. Chiefs won something. Rory McIlroy don't talk to each other. Serena Williams' husband is spending money. I mean, I just said, can we just have a break? Can we just have a weekend of games
from everybody else's lives?
I know. It's KG Rabada. It's just been a week and a half, and
Yeah, well, it is the weekend, and very sad. I mean, yesterday we spoke about Cornell Hendricks, and now we're learning that he actually was cleared to play.
By Dr.
Death.
I mean, Wouter Basson was up for apartheid crimes. He actually got away with them, but he was found guilty of basically not misconduct, but unethical conduct. 4 counts of unprofessional and unethical conduct between 1981 and 92, and that was obviously the heart of apartheid. But it was just after Madiba was released in 1990. So 1981. I mean, that was probably the heart of
1990. Where was I? Namibia. I was in Namibia. Anyway.
It's shocking. Lloyd Bernard written a piece for News 24 in which he says, there was another doctor that he wanted to go see him, and he said after he'd lost the gig with Toulon and the Stormers, and he said, well, we could put a pacemaker in, but you can't play rugby with a pacemaker.
Pacemaker, correct. Well, we get into that one. I mean, a car crashes into fans. This is before the Barca triumph. I'm saddened by this story.
Yeah. I hope it was an accident.
I trust it was.
I think so, because they weren't badly injured. But and then Barca still won the title.
Correct.
But they had to stop the game for a while. Just worried about that. Just weird. And then Giannini Infantino. I mean, I'm not a fan of this egg. I don't like him. I don't trust him.
I'm a bit of a stickler for time, and I don't like it if people do, take me for a bit of a ride. Like, don't tell me the meeting starts at a certain time and then you rock up there hours later, because I've made every effort to arrive on time. I'm not saying that I've never been late, but it's about respecting the next person, you know? And so he is late because he is with Trump.
Yeah, basically sucking up to Donald. He was in Middle East, I think it was Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and then just flew in several hours late. And the European delegation went, stuff this. And they just walked out.
I'm really glad.
To embarrass him. And
Correct.
And then he said he was sorry, and he was trying to be nice to people. And hey, it wasn't lekker.
I'm not a...
Some good news about the Nottingham Forest player, Taiwo Wanyi, the Nigerian.
27-year-old.
27 years old, out of the coma.
Yes.
Following abdominal surgery, when he hit the post, clattered into it, and then was rushed to hospital and then put into an induced coma, and then on Wednesday night they brought him out of it. So it looks like he's
on the mend.
On the mend. So
that's good news. That's really good news. But let's get into it now. So Dr. Death is the person. Set the story straight for me, because Dr. Death then says Cornell can play, and so therefore he plays.
Yeah. So he started playing again for his club in Wellington, Boland, that he grew up, because he said he needs to play rugby because he needs to make money. It's the only way
I
he
wonder
was
if we
making
can
money.
chat to Dr. Death.
No, I'd rather not.
I would want to, because now you have a player who has passed on,
Yeah.
who was cleared by you to play. I'm not saying doctors don't make mistakes, right? I'm sure the world over they do. They're not superhuman.
But it wasn't just once. So he was getting annual medical advice from him. So he was playing from 2017, and then he signed a contract with the Bulls, and for 4 years he was getting medical advice. I said, no, you're okay to play.
But is this the only doctor? Is there a second opinion in all of this? We know he had the heart condition. He knew that he was playing with the heart condition. So there's a GP in Cape Town, Douglas Bart. He met with him on the time he was trying to get a Stormers contract over the line, and he said, you've got to stop playing. He said, you've got a heart defect, and you can't put a pacemaker in. You cannot play with a pacemaker in rugby, because if you get with a pacemaker, it's just going to throw it out. He would have to have an operation, I think, to try and fix it, a bit like Christian Eriksen did after he collapsed when he was playing for Denmark. And he wasn't allowed to play in Italy because they've got very strict rules about that. But in the UK, you can play as long as you take responsibility. But this guy said he looked at ECG and there was an abnormality on it, and he said it looks like a 3rd-degree heart block. And I said, if you want my opinion, you shouldn't be playing rugby. It's dangerous. Yes. Okay, but then again, doctors give you their opinions, right? And isn't it up to you as an individual to then decide yay or nay, or what you're going to do? It's the same like going to it's a really silly example, but go to the pharmacy, you get your script, but you decide you're not taking the antibiotic, for example, because isn't the onus on you?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with that information at the end of the day? So did Dr. Death assess him and he knowingly then still played based on, or did Dr. Death clear him and say, you can play, nothing will happen?
Or maybe he just cleared him and just gave him a caveat, said basically this is on you.
Correct.
Maybe that's what he did. But it's a big headline, Dr. Death.
And
the guy died.
Yeah.
This is an apartheid, basically, not a criminal, I can't say that, but he allegedly was took part in something like 70 charges, which he was acquitted of. But he did stuff.
Oh, was this just his doctor that he consulted? You know. Anyway, I don't think it changes anything because a life has still been lost, and perhaps Cornell wanted to play.
Well,
he wanted to be a part of rugby, and that's what he did.
He needed the money. The Bulls deal basically, I think, provided for his family, and within he'll have put together an insurance policy, and they'll be able to base from that. I think his team in Wellington Roses will be raising some money for the family as well.
All right, my mom lives out in Durbanville.
Okay, so don't send it to Dr.
Yes, don't go there, Mike. Don't go there. Barcelona, well, we're talking about that incident there outside the stadium. 13 people injured and a car crashed into a crowd of supporters. Isn't it like F&B Stadium, cordoned off, you cannot use this road, you can't use that road, because surely a big game does enforce road closures of some sort.
I do think some of those stadiums are in town as such, so they're not like F&B out of town or Ellis Park and doing
a little bit more secluded.
A little bit more sort of, they're more accessible. And I saw that the crash actually happened outside a set of barriers. I saw the picture of the car in the Times. And I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't think it was on purpose. 13, but only slightly injured according to the stadium officials.
Yeah, and just about 35,000 people in the stadium as well.
And Barca won. That's the only thing we forget about. They beat Espanyol 2-0. Their 28th title, I think it is. 28th La Liga title. So, I mean, that's an incredible result. But
yeah, and speedy recovery to everybody. I mean, we're talking about someone who we've lost in sport, to injured fans, to, I guess, someone who's doing well, and that's Taiwo Awoniyi.
Yeah, I like that. Nigerian guy, 27-year-old, as you said, but being in an induced coma is a hell of a thing. I kept saying my late brother was in an induced coma, and he didn't come out of that, but it was just so his body could heal. So he couldn't move, but obviously it didn't work for him, but I'm glad that it's worked for him. Yeah.
And also just, I guess, the severity of the injuries, and just for his body to be able to heal. So it seems like he is well on his way to
we're
be
recovering.
fit and healthy.
Let's hope he gets back. There's also
It's going to be a long time.
Yeah, remember that West Ham striker who had the big car crash? He doesn't look like he's going to play again. He's done his knee quite badly. He's coming back. He's in sort of training, but he won't be playing again, I don't think. He said he's nice. Sold all of his sports cars, his Ferraris, and he's got an SUV.
Sorry.
Bit late now.
Yeah.
So Song Hyung Min, he's filed a complaint to South Korean police. There's a woman who's trying to blackmail him, saying that she's pregnant by his child. And he says, so Son says, I haven't got another son. Sorry.
I see what you did there.
But his agency, Son and Football Limited, said there's a victim. The police have arrested a woman in her 20s and a man in his 40s. They were just trying to get money with a fake pregnancy claim. I mean, people try anything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just, it's evil, you know.
I think this needs to go fast track to Mampara next week.
Go. I'll write it down now.
But you're right, people will take any gap these days.
Yeah.
I mean, is it Kim Kardashian now? They're back in court with the ring. Remember when she went to Paris Fashion Week and these guys came in and stole her jewelry, etc., etc. Anyway, that is in court at the moment as well. Side note. People will try everything. That's kind of the trend I was on.
There was a golfer described Quail Hollow, where they're playing the USPGA, as Kim Kardashian. He said it's modern, fashionable, but pretty boring. But they call Quail Hollow the Rory McIlroy Country Club because he's won there 4 times, but he's had a shocking start to the PGA. Shot a 3 over 74. Nobody thought that was going to happen. Luke Donald, who was his Ryder Cup captain, is now 47 years old, and he produced a 67. And then there's a USA PGA debutant, Ryan Gerard.
Yeah.
World number 8.
81.
7 under.
World number 81.
And he's leading. 7 under par. Let's see what happens. There's complaints left, right, and centre. There's been a lot of rain on the fairways overnight, and the fairways basically them get muddy, and they're talking about mud balls. And I remember that one year it happened at Sun City, and you were allowed to pick up and clean the mud off the ball and put it down again once. And he was doing it a couple of times.
But every time you put it down, it got muddy. Isn't that the excuse?
Yeah. Put it down and get it muddy again. And that was when...
and no one's going behind any trees here. Everybody is well behaved. Ablution facilities are close by.
No one's peeing in a creek.
That's it. Just checking. Just checking.
Up a creek without a pee.
Up a crack.
Janet Whitten, I'm sure you worked with Janet at... so we were at Sun City that year, and she was doing a live a crossing to SAB radio station. And she said, yes, and the players have been allowed to lift up and clean their balls. I was finished. And I fell laughing in front of me. I turned around and looked at her, and she's trying not to corpse. So she's giggling as well, but the shoulders are going up and down. I saw her the other day. She's looking in good spirits. She's still at SABC.
Yeah, she is. She is. I was with her not too long ago. She sits
there.
on the panel for the SA Sports Awards, and that's really where I see her annually. Let's hope we see each other again this year, Janet, with all the changes.
Yeah. This case is just just about finished now. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the 1500 meter Olympic champion, 800 meters. His father, he's in court. Prosecutors want 2.5 years for him, and he said, I was embarrassed being a victim of domestic violence.
So he's now owned up.
No, the father hasn't.
He still hasn't owned up.
This is Jacob, the son, saying that everything I said in my my affidavit about being kicked, sworn at, living under a culture of fear was accurate. He kicked him in the stomach because he fell off his scooter. The father would slap the
sister around.
Young sister who can't be named because she's
but I think she's no longer a minor. I think she's 18 now.
Okay, but it's still this. I think it's just finished now. It's taken 6 weeks.
I have a big block when it comes to this story.
Yeah, it's just
it is really very sad.
Well, yeah, it's like watching parents at the side of a rugby field and
it's
shouting
at the
at
hands
kids.
of the people that are supposed to keep you safe, right? That are supposed to be your safe haven, where if anything goes wrong, that's where you can run to. So without that, where do they run? They're just free falling.
Yeah. Stop imposing your expectations on your children. If you're a parent watching rugby, watch. It's not the World Cup final. It's a game of rugby. It's fun. It's sport.
And it's hard to a degree, you know, but not at the hands of abuse. I don't think anyone should have to go through that. And a lot of times you see it in sport. We've seen it in gymnastics, right? It might not have been parents this time, but then it was the doctor and the USA team, Ingebrigtsen. It's the father putting the pressure on the children to be able to excel to the point where it is now abuse.
Well, I could say Lewis Hamilton fell out with his father for a long time. Not abuse, but because he was just imposing himself a bit too much. But then they've made up, and I see that Daddy Hamilton has now been appointed by the FAI to look after young drivers.
Nice.
And help develop them. And you saw what he did with Liam Lawson when he crashed on that first thing, and the young drivers, and he walks up and he gave him a hug and said, "Listen, you're going to be okay. It happened.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna make your mistakes."
It's really why Cardoso, Coach Miguel Cardoso's post-match interview when they won the league, for me, speaks volumes, because he said it's not just about the win and the playing and the et cetera, right? It's about knowing the background of every player so that you provide that safe haven, you provide some soft landing for them at the club, for them then to be able to go out and be the best striker, defender, goalkeeper. And I think every sport needs that. You need that in order to what's the word? Help me.
Progress, excel, develop, lift, take off.
Correct. All of those words. Okay. In order for you to be the best you need to know that someone's got your back.
I need to talk to you about this. Coming up after the break, we're going to be speaking to Ashley Pelgaro, who's a Manchester City fan, and it's the FA Cup final tomorrow against Crystal Palace. Come on, Palace. Good morning, Ashley. How are you doing? Sorry, we got a bit caught out there. Ashley, Manchester City fan, big game tomorrow, FA Cup final. Your one chance to win a trophy this year. Confident? Ashley? Hi, Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Can you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. How's it going?
Great stuff. I just asked, big final tomorrow, obviously, City play against Palace. Your chance to win a trophy this season. Confident? Nervous?
Oh, I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie, because obviously we're not coming off the back of a great game against Southampton, and Crystal Palace are not a team to underestimate. So I'm definitely not going into it thinking, oh, this is it, guys. Like, we're 100% going to win it. I do think we're going to win it, but I think it's going to be a difficult game. Crystal Palace they are so good. And also, it's kind of been like the season of the underdogs. I don't know if you've been noticing that teams that haven't been winning trophies are suddenly winning trophies. So obviously, we kind of don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and Palace, they've been in the final, 3 times. They haven't won one yet. But they are having a good season. Well coached. They've got a good chairman, Steve Parish. The club just seems to be doing things well. And we've got some good news that that's the Forest striker who's just come out of an induced coma. Yeah. What do you think the lineup's going to be? Haaland will obviously start. Grealish, maybe? No?
You see, I like Grealish because I think he brings a certain amount of control. I also understand, though, why we would play Doku. But I think with a team like Crystal Palace, I do think we're going to see KDB start. I mean, he is on his way out, obviously. So I think we're going to see him start. I'd like to see Haaland. I'd also like to see Marmoush, though. And I do think we need that kind of creativity and pace that someone like Doku can bring. Obviously, Savinho can also do that on the right. But in terms of like outputs and creating chances, it hasn't been what it needs to be. But I definitely think we need more creative players on the field for tomorrow's game.
Yeah. City, obviously it's going to be the FA Cup. That might be the 8th time they win an historic 3rd consecutive title. But, they have had a couple of bad games in the recent, this season, the recent past. Do you blame Pep Guardiola for not building the team during the last, not this winter window, but the last summer window, transfer window?
Yeah. Oh, it's really like harsh to be like, yo, Pep, this is your fault kind of thing. But he did admit that he wasn't prepared, obviously, for the injuries and stuff. And I think he thought that some players were going to last longer, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I think what we saw is a lot of players had a dip in form, especially some of the seasoned and experienced players. We saw a lot of them have a dip in form. So to some degree, yes, and I think he would take that responsibility as well. But I also think sometimes during the season, he was also a bit too rigid with his choices when it comes to the starting lineups. Like, we know he has his favorite players. I love Bernardo Silva. He's one of the reasons I actually support City.
Yeah.
But there have been moments this season where we haven't seen the Bernardo that we're used to. So in starting someone like him and not starting like a creative player, for example, that I do think sometimes there were a bit of question marks. But I think Pep himself would take full responsibility for that if you look at the season as a whole.
Yeah, he has done. I mean, I followed a lot of his press conferences, and he's taken it on himself and not blamed the players. And he's admitted that he actually cocked up in that window and didn't by not buying players. But then his relationship with Kevin De Bruyne has been a bit weird this year. You know, they were close and great mates, but he hasn't started him, then he has started him, and but I think you're going to see a good Kevin De Bruyne in his what is going to be his last or his second last game for City this weekend.
Yeah, the fact that KDB's on his way out, is something I still haven't quite accepted myself. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Ash, I want to know, how does it go down in your household? Obviously, your husband are on opposing sides. I mean, is there any love lost? Are you heading to divorce court anytime soon? Is the love still strong?
No, listen, the love is strong except on derby days. Then we're like, one side of the household is blue, the other side is red. And, you know, we only talk after the game kind of thing. But it does keep it interesting and it makes it a lot of fun. I'll be honest, like, we've had a lot of fun with these things that even when one of our teams lose, for example, like seeing your partner happy, it's like a double-edged sword, I'll be honest. Because I find myself rooting for Man United because obviously I want my husband to be happy. I don't want him to be upset. So then he kind of like traps me sometimes. I'm like, yeah, United. And then I'm like, hold on, what are you saying here? So it definitely keeps things interesting. I'll say that.
How did the two of you get into sport? I mean, football specifically. Did you meet each other having obviously had a love for your teams, or did the one get the other one into football?
It's actually the latter, because I never grew up like with being a diehard sports fan, should I say. Like, even in my household, if my family was watching sports, it was mainly like rugby or tennis or stuff like that. Or they'd watch the World Cup, and then everyone loves Ronaldo because that's like the only name you can latch onto. So that's kind of how it was growing up. And then when I met my husband, now this was like 10 years ago when I met him, and his whole life has been football. He played football. He wanted to continue to play. He couldn't, for all like various reasons. And then as we started dating, I wanted to obviously just take an interest in the things that interest him. I was always around it because he was watching it. Like, he's a dedicated football fan. So I kind of got swept up in that. But for me, it was a case of actually one of the first few live games I went to watch. Especially we had the opportunity to watch in Portugal. And that I mentioned Bernardo Silva earlier, like Bernardo Silva, João Cancelo. When I watched that game, I felt like I was possessed. I was like, is this what everyone is talking about? There's something about a live football game that I feel like I was almost bitten by the bug, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then for me, it was a case of, okay, like, yeah, I hear you. You like United, that's cool. You like Real Madrid, all that stuff. But as I was just watching on my own and watching certain players, for me, it was a player thing. And then also Pep as a system.
Did you pick out all the cute ones to watch? Because that always helps.
No, you think, right? You would think. I love me some Grealish. But it was honestly like, I was watching what they were doing with the ball, and I couldn't quite fathom that they were able to do that. It was like mind-blowing for me. I have such an appreciation for the art of the sport. So that's kind of how it started. And then when I was like, listen, I think I might just go like City. I feel a real connection to them. Obviously, he was heartbroken, and he was like, what have I been past like however many years of our relationship? But that was pretty much where it started. And we were having these conversations like off camera anyway. So we're like, why don't we just, let's try to do some content around it. And it became something we didn't expect, but in the best way possible.
Cute, man.
I mean, being married to a United fan, do you have to speak slow and not use big words and use pictures?
I can't believe you.
Sorry, I'm a Liverpool fan. So.
I feel like my husband would laugh at that one.
So that's a yes then, okay?
Yes. No comment.
I see Haaland's been telling BBC Sports, talking about the tough season, says it's not nice to lose so many games, it's boring and fun. And I always thought that he was going to have an off-season sometime. The fact that it happened after he signed this big 9-year contract was bizarre.
Sure.
But he's just a direct runner. I mean, he's an ugly runner, but he's direct and he's a scorer. I think he's motivated for this weekend, so he's going to be your scorer this weekend.
I think Haaland wants to do it for his bestie, KDB.
Okay.
He's like, we can't send this guy out with nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I feel like the whole team feel that pressure for this game to really deliver. And he just said, like you said, it was a horrific season. His words, not mine. But if we look at it like objectively, I mean, if you're still in a final, hopefully we get silverware and we can get UCLs. Some teams don't even get any of that.
Yeah, and Rodri been out for the whole season, which is obviously bad. You've had a lot of Haaland was injured. Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or was actually, I thought was one of the better decisions of the year. You know, Vinicius Jr. can go take a running jump, actually. The sulking of Real Madrid after Rodri won the Ballon d'Or was ridiculous.
It's so funny you brought that up because I have such strong feelings about that. Only because for me it's just a respect thing. When Haaland didn't win his Ballon d'Or, when I thought he was going to, and I don't think I was alone in that, given his first season at City, he still showed up. You know, I think it is a respect thing. I just think that they sometimes, and I say this, I have a lot of respect for Real Madrid as a team and what they do and everything that they are. They think they're one of the best teams, but I think they sometimes are a bit entitled. And even though I thought Vinny was going to win, I will say it myself, I think the way it was handled was just a bit disappointing.
Yeah, embarrassing more than anything. And it's also, I mean, I don't like why the Ballon d'Or was basically chosen by, I think, over 100, 150 journalists. A lot of them based in Europe, a lot of them based in...
we've got one. One was from South Africa.
Yeah, that would be Mark Leeson.
Mark Leeson.
Yeah, Mark Leeson does that. But yeah, you know, who was the only African to win? Samuel Eto'o? Will, do you think my man, Mo Salah, is going to win the Ballon d'Or this year?
Salah for Ballon d'Or.
Yeah. Don't sound so surprised.
I was shouting that all season, but it's a tough one if you look at the players in the Spanish league. Like, it's a lot of competition, and I think if PSG win the Champions League, also Dembele. So I think it's going to be very interesting, but I do think Salah has been underrated in his entire career. So I'd like to think that it wouldn't be the case maybe for this season.
Yeah, I do think so. But for me, the league is basically just a two-horse race, same as the French league. The Premier League, it is the hardest in the world. It's 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. You're going to be sitting down, popcorn, beers, wine,
Is there a hole in
champagne.
your couch, Ashley?
Say again?
Is there a hole in your couch? You know, like when you sit it comfy and it like takes the form of your body already, you know?
Because that's exactly where I'm seated every week to watch my team. So absolutely.
Good luck. Good luck for tomorrow. I'm supporting Palace, but because I don't. But good luck for tomorrow. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Big weekend. I love the FA Cup. It's my favorite. It's just something magical about it. It's usually not the most pretty game of football, though. That's the problem. But I do remember the year that Liverpool played West Ham. Steven Gerrard scoring basically in injury time with a pile driver from like 30, 40 yards out. Wow. And then we won 3-1 on penalties. And I hope it doesn't go to penalties again. I'd like to see it be won in 90 minutes. And I think Palace may push it 2-1. I'm going to go for Palace.
Listen, Bafana Lights, huh? We can't forget to mention them. Yeah. Amajitas.
That's 8:30 on 8 o'clock on Sunday night. They're in the AFCON Under-20 final.
For the first time, I think if my math never maths, but 8 years.
28 years.
Yeah.
Since 97, when Shakes Mashaba, Benny McCarthy, that was the team. Yeah.
So my math is mathing correctly.
It's well done. You can go into the weekend. Your daughter's homework might even be right.
For a change.
Good. Enjoy the weekend.
We're out of here till Monday. Cheerio.
Not the sports news on Omni Audio Africa.